So have you taken on an overgrown allotment, or maybe you've had one for a while and it's just turned wild? Well then this is the video series for you. Hello, my name's Daniel, aka the Rookie Greenie, and on this channel we get to share our passion growing food. Alright, so today marks the beginning of the journey to turn my allotment back into what it once was. I took over the plot, managed to get it to a decent position. As you can see here, I've had a couple of good different harvests, and now it's just turned into an absolute jungle, to be honest with you. And what was cool was I was kind of learning something new every week. I was being consistent, turning up and putting in work down here. However, a year ago we welcomed our first child into the world, which has been better than I could have dreamed of. Like, I love being a dad, to be fair, but it has made it quite difficult to get down to the allotment and kind of do what I need to do down here. But he's just turned 1, so he's, you know, becoming a bit more independent, and we've got a bit more of a routine going on, so I should be able to make some time to come up here more regularly and get the plot back into better shape. Thought it would be a sort of fun idea to document the journey of how I'm gonna get this place fixed up for some entertainment, but also any sort of specific challenges that I come across that I think could be helpful for you to see. And I always say, not just sort of to do with gardening, but life in general, there's a million ways to get something done. So if you see me do something on camera that might give you a little bit of inspiration, you can sort of incorporate that into your own way of doing things. So next up, I'm going to go through the action plan I've put together that will hopefully guide me in my quest to getting this place up and running again. You can work a lot more efficiently, and you can save time having to ask yourself questions along the way when you've already thought about them before. First thing I'm going to do is to just have a general look over the plot and check if there's anything that might be worth keeping. You never know, you might find some hidden treasure or something that you've forgotten about before that's still quite valuable. It could be plants, or I don't know, some piece of equipment or something like that. So first up, I'll have a good look through from top to bottom and see if there's anything that might be worth keeping. Okay, so first up is the weeds. That's the most apparent thing. As you can see, they're coming up to sort of shoulder height now, and they've taken over the whole plot. Some of them look like they're going to seed, so I kind of need to chop them down before they go to seed. I'm not sure exactly what's in there, but I can see dandelions, also some couch grass as well. But there's so many different things in there I don't even recognise. I don't know what they are. So I'll be using, I've got a petrol strimmer with a blade cutter as well, which can cut through more fibrous weeds. That'll be a video within itself. But essentially I just use the strimmer to cut the grass down. Just another tip about that is, before you actually start cutting the grass, just make sure you have a look to see if there are any creatures or any small animals that might be hiding amongst the weeds. Obviously you don't want to be harming them when you're strimming. So just have a quick look around. Obviously, if you run into something like a snake or something like that, then personally I'd probably scream and run and then deal with it later. So once I've cut the weeds down, the next thing to think about would be how I'm going to stop them coming back. So essentially, what method of weed suppression do you want to use? For me, I loosely follow sort of no dig. So I just use cardboard laid over the weeds, which excludes light, and eventually the weeds sort of die off underneath the cardboard. Also, the cardboard decomposes into the soil, feeding the soil as well. Some people use plastic, but I prefer to use the cardboard option because it sort of feeds all the microorganisms in the soil as well, which is another plus. I've got Sainsbury's local, which is just around the corner from my house, and I always see them with loads of bundles of cardboard. So I'm going to ask them if they're willing to donate that to me, and then I'll just cover the whole area with cardboard. Because you're not physically ripping out all of the weeds by hand, it really does save your back and all of the extra hours you would put in just manually doing that. So it does take a while for the weeds to die off, but personally I'd rather wait a bit longer than have to break my back digging out weeds for weeks and weeks on end. And then once the cardboard has been laid down, we do get free wood chip at the allotment. Unfortunately, my plot isn't right next to it, so I'm gonna have to shovel it into wheelbarrows and bring it down here, and then I'll cover the whole space on top of the cardboard. I'll cover that all with wood chip, which helps to suppress weeds as well. I think it actually looks quite nice decoratively. Eventually they'll form the pathways in between the beds where I'll be growing stuff. And it also breaks down and feeds the soil along with the cardboard eventually. It'll take a while. If I can get some help from my friends, that would be great, but I doubt it. At this point, I've kind of got a blank canvas of what would just look like wood chip. Thinking ahead, I'll start to plan exactly where I want to plant what. I have been using Garden Planner from Grow Veg. I think he's the one who might have put that together. But basically it's just, you can drag and drop different plants. I'll probably just have rows of beds of compost and go through exactly where I'm going to plant what, so I can get ahead of that. Especially now summer's nearly over anyway, so I kind of need to start planning for next year. So once I've got the actual design done and sorted, the next thing would be to purchase some good quality compost, mix that with some of the compost I've actually made myself, which hopefully should be mature soon enough to be able to use anyway. And then I can arrange the beds where the plants are going to grow. I can put the compost in rows and let that settle before planting straight into the compost. It is an initial investment, especially if you have to buy compost in, which is one of the drawbacks of no dig. I think over the long run you do actually save money. And as I mentioned, it is a bit easier in terms of labour. But one of the downsides is you've got to pay for, I don't know, it could be a ton of compost to actually get started. So that's where I was saying before about the best way for you might not be the best way for somebody else. You've just got to weigh up what works for you and make a decision based on that. And then the last couple of things that I would work on are more structural things. So first would be the pond that I mentioned earlier. Believe it or not, we've actually got a pond hidden somewhere in there. And even when I actually built the pond, I didn't even check it was even, so it's a bit slanted. Some of the logs surrounding it are starting to fall into the pond, and I haven't really got any pond plants in there. I haven't had any in there, so it hasn't really attracted any of the wildlife that I was hoping it would do. So that would be a bit of a bigger project. Again, that would be a video within itself, because I think that would take quite a while to do, but I'll be really ripping that out, starting again, making sure it's got a good foundation. And then, as I said, buying the pond plants and also building like a habitat around the pond as well and seeing what we can attract. And then the last thing, which is another quite big DIY project, would be at the top of the plot, is to create a sort of seating area, whether that's going to be decked or wood chip. My little boy is getting a bit bigger now, so he's going to be able to come down here, so somewhere to chill. Friends and family as well, barbecues and just chilling out in the sun outdoors instead of being inside all the time. All right, so I mean, there's not really much more to do. The planning sounds quite easy, got a good order of things, but now it's the actual hard work. Future videos will be covering each one of those steps and going into a bit more detail. Hopefully we can learn some new things together, and you can see that it is possible to sort of transform a space even if you don't have much help. You just got to be patient and appreciate it's going to be tough, but you know, and it might take a bit longer, but you get there in the end.